Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory. At that time, Jesus passed along the Sea of Galilee, and he went up the mountain and sat down there. And great crowds came to him, bringing with them the lame, the maimed, the blind, the mute, and many other, and they put them at his feet, and he healed them, so that the throng wondered when they saw the mute speaking, the maimed whole, the lame walking, and the blind seeing. And they glorified God, the God of Israel. Then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion on the crowd, because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I am unwilling to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way. And the disciples said to him, Where are we to get bread enough in the desert to feed so great a crowd? And Jesus said to them, How many loaves do you have? They said, 7, and a few small fish. And commanding the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 7 baskets full of broken pieces left over. The Gospel of the Lord. God is good, and all the time. In our first reading, we are reminded of when I was looking at the readings, I was astonished how a reading that we always take during burial is put in the time of Advent, a time of happy, joyful waiting. And I remembered that all that we wait for in this earth is death. And the death that we wait for as Christians is not the decaying of the mortal body, but a death that is transformative, that will be transformed from these bodies, and we will assume glorified body to live forever with God. And wherever you read this reading, there are some features or some, I don't remember my English very well when we were reading about when you are doing poetry. There are things that I used to show other things. One is the mountain, and on that mountain, that's where God will have a feast of a fattened ram. That means to eat meat, you must eat the fat one. Kimchinja ukimla nguruwe, mle aliyenona. So, first, to go up the mountain is some work. It's not a piece, it's not just something that you will wake up and do. You have to prepare, you have to find the right gear and go up the mountain. So it's a hassle to go up the mountain. It's not something easy, it's very hard. But for you to have the banquet of the Lord, you must go up the mountain. It is not below the mountain. It is not somewhere for quitters in the middle. It is up the mountain. You must go up the mountain to have the feast. And then after eating, they will remove the veil that shrouds us. You know, even when we are looking at people, we have a shroud, maybe a shroud of prejudice, a shroud of something that you know about that person, and you think that they can't change. All those will be removed, and we will see people, we will see God as He is, the beatific vision that we can even achieve when we are here on earth, because everybody is created in the image of God. We can have a beatific vision of not seeing people with prejudices. Whatever the prejudice is, tribal, whatever it is, maybe the level of education, everything, those are prejudices. And then after that, he will remove the zinaitwa aerophytic ama zinaitwa aerophytic plants, zile zinakula zingine. Aki ya Mungu, masomo we forgot everything that we learned. There are those plants that when they get onto the host, they eat the whole thing. God will remove on these things that eat on us. When we come, Jesus comes, we have so many things eating on us, and they have removed that person that God created. Biblically, the person God created as Adam and Eve in his own image. To our natural living, that girl, that boy, that soul that God created from us, that has been eaten by other things that came on it, of evil desires, of woiru. What do you call woiru? Envy or jealousy. All those, the capital sins that have just gone over our hearts and have eaten our innocence, have eaten our purity. Those things is what Jesus is coming to remove. But for us to be removed, we must go up the mountain. In the gospel reading, and these things we'll hear all through this time: desert, then you'll see the lame and the blind. When you go to the Old Testament, when the clean touches the unclean touches the clean becomes unclean. And that's why people would not mingle with unclean people who are ritually unclean. But when Jesus came, it is when the clean touches the unclean becomes clean. So that's the call for us as Christians, that whenever we go to people, we do not mix with the world, but we give the world that what is Christian. But today, what are we doing? We are taking the world and boom, into the church. But now, God is calling us and reminding us, we are supposed to touch the unclean and make it clean, not we being made unclean by the unclean. Lastly, Jesus is coming us to give us life, and life is to be shared. When Jesus looks at them, he feels pity on them because they have been with him for enough time, that is to mean 3 days. And when he looks at them, he is moved by pity and takes what they have and gives to them. And when they eat, they all have enough and there is left over. Just to be a little political, it's like when you take taxes, you share it back with the people. There will always be enough for everybody, and there will be left over. When we are not greedy and share, when we are not self-centered and share, we will always have enough for ourselves and enough for everybody, and there will be leftovers. Love is to be shared. Christmas is not a time to make merry, but a time to share love and live together. Tumsifu Yesu Kristo.